We're live?
All right.
Do you want to make sure it's up on the Facebook page?
I'm looking. I'll sing our theme music. Bum, 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 bum,
Oh, hey, we're live.
bum. There's a picture of me looking angry at
So
my
should we
computer. Yeah.
start talking?
I'm sorry, did you want to host this?
Excuse me, I am
the-
sleep deprived.
Welcome to the sleep-deprived version of Better Utah Broadcast. I'm Katie Matheson. I'm the Communications Director here at Alliance for a Better Utah. And with me is Chase Thomas, formerly Policy and Advocacy Council for Alliance for a Better Utah, but
Now
who was
leader
recently...
of Alliance for a Better Utah.
Yes. Following scandal regarding an email sent by the Utah State Bar, Chase has been promoted by a reporter to head of ABU. So well done.
Thank you.
You worked really hard for that one.
I kicked Josh out of his position.
That's how we
He's
do it
not
here.
upset.
It's very Game of Thrones around here.
But I don't get a raise, so I'm quitting.
And that was fast. All right. Also, we are also joined today by Terry Mitchell, who's here to chat about some bills that she's been following.
Yes, thank
Right?
you.
Yeah. And then we also have on the sides that you can't see, we have Brittany and Kyle, interns.
Hi, Kyle.
Brittany is waving to you from behind. So we've collectively had about 10 hours of sleep in the past week, so this will be great. So next week, remember, no legislative session, but we will still be doing a Better Utah broadcast, 12:30 on Wednesday. We will be joined by Luis Garza from Comunidades Unidas. Very timely, DACA just expired. So we're going to be talking with him about what that means. It sounds like they've got some kind of give up through the fall, so that's at least something. But we're going to be talking about those communities and what the impact of that failure on the part of Congress to act means. Be sure to click get reminders so that you can get reminders when we go live, yada yada. Here we are. So first, because we're all in a very silly mood. No, I introduced Terry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, this is Terry. Chase, this
I
is
didn't
Terry.
know if we were having her talk about our bills and then going into this. I just didn't know the
Oh,
format.
no, this is the phone.
Never mind. Okay.
This is my co-host, Chase.
Hi.
So, Chase, I want you to, in 3 words or less, describe the session. And remember, children watch this show.
That got rid of all my words. No, I'm kidding. Tiring.
Tiring.
Long.
Long.
Mixed bag.
Okay, no.
That is hyphenated, so.
Semantics. Okay, we'll take it. Kyle, do you have 3 words or less for this session? Crazy. Breakneck.
That's a hyphenated word, right?
Sure.
And ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Brittany, do you have any words? You don't have to. No, Brittany is speechless. Terry, do you have any words?
Scary, frightening, and concerning.
All those words. Yes. Okay.
We have the best words.
Oh, Brittany's just going to leave us with unconstitutional. That has more syllables than the rest of the words. We have the best words. We really do. Okay. So let's Terry, why don't you talk with us about why you're here? So the legislative session ends tomorrow. And you have a couple of bills that you're pretty concerned about. Talk to us about what's concerning, why is it concerning, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, well, first, regarding Senate Bill 12, it removes oversight from the legislature. This is a bill that is concerning because it's regarding the ethics committees that hold the elite in power accountable. And I've got 8 reasons why this shouldn't happen, but this bill removes oversight of executive ethics problems, such as those overseen by Representative Dunnigan regarding John Swallow, from the Legislative Management Committee, and gives that oversight to one of the executives, the governor. So that's concerning, because if something's going on with the Attorney General's office, which my experience has been that something is going on and it should be addressed, it seems unlikely that it's going to be handled fairly if it's just presented to the governor rather than an independent, unbiased committee that doesn't have conflicts of interest to concerns regarding that.
This is the same bill that you wrote your, oh, sorry,
Yeah, I think it's SB 216.
Is it 216?
Yeah.
Okay.
SB
And
216.
then SJR 12, I think, is the other one, or 15 or something like that.
Well, will you speak about that, please? Because
Yeah.
I'm really curious to get your input on that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of we only have one major concern with the bill, and it's a very small change. It actually only changes one word in several places, but just one word. It changes it from you're able to submit complaints on ethics violations if you have an actual knowledge to a personal knowledge, which doesn't seem like a huge change, but right now you're able to submit complaints if you find out about it somehow, like someone came and told you or you found out some information. It would make it so that you could only submit a complaint if you personally observed it, which would basically shut off most corruption claims from going to ethics commissions, because I mean, if you have someone who took a bribe, the official who took the bribe is probably not going to report himself. The person who gave the bribe is just as likely not to report it either. And so if somebody else found out about it, they wouldn't be able to go and, I don't know, complain about it. So we actually have sent around an email to some legislators. I had an op-ed published last night in Utah Policy. So if you go to utahpolicy.com, it's on the guest opinions, and you can read more about our concerns with it.
Well, also it changes the malfeasance definition in that as
Yeah,
well,
well,
right?
the malfeasance definition that's included in there is actually a definition that's been around for about 60 years. They just adopted it from a Supreme Court case. And so it's taking it directly out of that Utah Supreme Court constitutional language. So we're not too concerned with that. It's just inserting it into law as well.
I see. Okay, because so let me just read something that someone has mentioned to me. The malfeasance definition seeks to increase the mens rea scienter for any crime the executive may commit to intentional, so that one could only be found to have committed malfeasance if one intentionally committed the crime of malfeasance, a crime that one may have committed knowingly, recklessly, or negligently. So that one kind of seems concerning to some people that I've spoken to.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see that concern, but I mean, a lot, like if you're going to be finding someone guilty of corruption charges or ethics violations and they unintentionally did it, it doesn't seem like, I mean, if it's not their intent, then why are we going after them for...
But if it's an ethics violation, they should know better, especially if they're teaching classes in ethics for their, continuing ed in their profession. And
Well, I mean, that includes negligently. I'm saying unintentionally. Even without negligence, someone just completely is unaware that they
did it. Yeah.
did it. I
Okay.
mean, that seems like it carves around that.
Okay, and then HB 298 started out as a removing victims' confidentiality, and they've put it now to be something that is a task that's going to be looking into this. The concern that I have is there's no victims on this task force, and the people that are on the task force are all interdependent upon their salary, so they don't want to upset anybody or call anybody on who might be on the task force who is obstructing justice for victims. That's a concern. There's no victims' rights advocates on this. There's no victims on this panel that they've decided they want to put forth. I strongly feel that 97% of the victims do not come forward, and there's a reason. There's an undercurrent of protection for some people, especially those in positions of power. And it's concerning. Just, if this wouldn't have happened to me, I wouldn't believe this could happen. And because I specifically come out and spoke about what happened to me and let my name be used about the Chief Justice federal judge who sexually abused me when I was a child witness to 2 murders. And he told me if I spoke and told anybody that they would let him out on a mistrial and he'd be free to kill again. When I brought the recorded evidence to the Utah Attorney General's office, they said they were going to investigate it, but they put fraud investigators on it, not sexual abuse victims or sexual abuse investigators on it. They never interviewed the man that abused me, but they gave him all the evidence against him while withholding it from me.
So they gave a judge who was supposed to be helping you on another case and then abused you, and they gave him evidence that you were presenting against him.
Right. I got a recorded admission of what happened. And at the time, he was a Department of Justice prosecutor for the violation of Ted Fields and David Martin's civil rights. Joseph Paul Franklin came to Salt Lake City and murdered them in 1980.
Right next to you, right?
Right next to me. I still have this shrapnel wound, not wounds, but scars, and the psychological scars. I have gone to every victim's rights place possible to get help or funding for counseling, and I can't get help. It's a joke. And if I wouldn't have put my name forth and let it be open to people to know, this would never be known, obviously, and so many people have come to me and told me their stories that are so similar to mine, and they're never going to come and try to get help because they tried and they got slammed down. And that's why I'm speaking up. If it just happened to me, I would never even talk about it. I'd just say it was a mistake. I'd let it go. But I'm here at the Capitol speaking against bills or for bills that harm or hurt victims. And then
You're saying that was HB 298?
right, and so
HB
now they've
298.
changed it to a task force investigating what's going on. But the thing is, a lot of the people on that task force are my concern is the people that are in the task force will have to rely on some of the people that are harming us. And so how effective is that going to be, especially when there's no victims' rights advocates or victims?
So is it the concept of the task force itself that is bothersome, or is it the people on the task force? It sounds like it's the people.
Well, first of all, the way that this 298 came about is concerning. And I know you don't have a lot of time, but if you look into it, it started out with punishing the victim and suggesting that she's possibly lying, and a victim's rights advocate should be able to strip confidentiality of the things that she tells the victim's rights advocate in order to help the perpetrator. So why would we even throw that kind of thing in? 97% of the victims don't come forward anyway, and less than 1% are lying when they do, as far as we know. So why do we need a bill stripping them of confidentiality? And even if they don't believe you're lying, they thought I was telling the truth. Paul Cassell says it in his summary, that he believes me, that I was telling the truth. They still violated my rights, and nobody is holding them accountable. Nobody.
So we're not doing a very good job in this state of
No.
taking care of victims.
We are not, and we're saying, I wonder why they don't come forward, but when they do, this is how they're treated. You know, they're not allowed to get any help. They are shut down, they are ignored, they don't respond to our calls, they don't respond to our emails, and that is not okay. Especially right now in this Me Too movement. We need victims to come forward because we don't want any more victims to be, we don't want any more future victims.
Right.
So
I want us to keep this conversation going, but in the sake of time, we're going to
Yeah,
move on.
I understand.
But how can people, if people watching have had a similar experience or want to continue conversations with you about this, how can they? Is there a way that they can get in? Is there an organization that you're working with?
well, right now I am going to be speaking at the Grand Theater at Salt Lake Community College on March 27th. And I'm also going to be speaking on a panel. But you can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm really doing this for victims, and I'm speaking out and helping others, but I haven't joined any organization.
Okay.
I do have great confidence in the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, and they've been pretty helpful. So.
Okay. So reach out to Terry on Facebook.
Terry, TERRY.J.Mitchell, MITCHELL.
Okay. And they can reach out to you and talk about their experiences. And
Absolutely. And I can honestly say at least 5 people a week come forward to me and tell me their stories, and it's horrific. I volunteered at the Juvenile Justice Center for Girls for a while. 100% of them came to me and told me they had been sexually abused. These are girls from 12 to 17 years old. That's an unbelievable statistic that we need to address. The rape to prison pipeline is real. And when we don't take victims seriously, that's a consequence that might happen. That and drug addiction. And that's not something I'm okay with.
Yeah,
So-
because what you're saying is they're dealing with trauma Right, and that's how it leads that way. Is that what
Absolutely.
you're saying?
Absolutely. We can do better on trauma-informed things. And also, we should be looking at restorative justice measures rather than just punishment measures. We need to try to help victims and the community and the perpetrator heal from the things that are done, not just punish them, because right now this system doesn't serve us. And I'm not saying it's broken, because I believe it was built to work this way. It's profitable. So
Okay.
that's my take.
Are there other bills that you wanted to talk about really quickly? Or we good?
House Bill 177 is going to do a trauma-informed panel. Some of the people on that panel, I think, shouldn't be on that panel, and I do believe that there should be victims and victims' rights advocates included on these panels. Otherwise, it's a waste of money and a waste of time, because there are people investigating themselves, and they all have salaries connected to each other. How can we get real effective ethical changes if that's the case? It's
Yeah.
not working.
Okay.
So
Thanks for bringing those to our attention.
thank you for listening. It was
I'm
nice to
sorry
see you.
about your story, but I'm really impressed with how you're taking it and doing something with your experience. That's hard
Well,
to do.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and good luck with. Are you going to go talk with senators and representatives and
Yeah.
lobby? Awesome. Well, good luck.
They see me, it's like, oh, great.
That's what they do for me too. So no worries.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now for something slightly way more lighthearted, actually. I need you to, Chase,
Yes.
give us a scorecard.
Okay.
On a scorecard of 1 to 5, 1 being terrible and 5 being excellent, I need you to score the following issues in terms of this session, legislation being passed. Now I know who knows what's going to happen, but up until this point, 1 to 5 on these issues that we've kind of picked out at the beginning of the session.
Uh-huh.
How do you think the legislature did? So shared prosperity, so affordable housing, education, tax breaks, homelessness. How do you think that we did?
I would say like a 3.5, maybe getting up to a 4.
That's good.
Yeah, because they've done a lot for affordable housing. There's more that could be done. I'm not sure if there's a $100 million bond bill for affordable housing that could be passed. We'll see if that happens. But they most likely created a new commission on housing affordability. There's another bill that would tax cities that don't have affordable housing.
That's still going?
Yes, I think it's still going. Maybe. I can't remember. My
Don't
brain.
ask me.
Yeah, I can barely remember stuff that happened like 5 seconds ago. So yeah, that's affordable housing. Education, we'll see what happens with that. Our school's now made a compromise with...
Big news, yep.
Yeah, it's sort of like a compromise with the devil or something. But they came together with legislative leaders, and we might have a hike in this gas tax, which is a mixed bag because the gas tax, legislative leaders have been saying revenue's been going down every single year anyways. So does that mean the education revenue is going to go down every year?
Well, that's sneaky.
We don't know. So yeah, I mean, but there has been good stuff. I mean, they put most of the new revenue towards education. Anyways, they would have gotten about $300 million. So yeah.
Okay, it's a mixed bag.
3.5.
3.5. 3.5 is better than 1. All means all. Hate crimes, workplace protections, abortion bill, criminal justice reform.
Because we have criminal justice reform in there, I can't give it a 0.
0 wasn't even on the thing.
Exactly. So probably a 2. Just because they have been doing stuff for criminal justice reform, this has been a high priority for the past 4 years now through the Justice Reinvestment Initiative, tweaking punishments, providing more money, and they continued that this session. All the other stuff, hate crimes,
Failed.
never even saw the light of day.
Yep.
It's still just introduced. Because Senate President Niederhauser just said, we don't have the votes. They don't like it in the Senate.
That
and
was not a very good impression.
we don't like the votes. Anyways, the workplace protection amendments, which would have lowered anti-discrimination protections from 15 employees to 1 and then to 5, failed. What else
Abortion
happened?
bill.
Oh yeah, the abortion bill. I'm hoping it's not going to pass.
So that's HB 205,
Yeah.
and that's what's the title?
Down syndrome non-discrimination
Abortion Act.
Act.
Yeah. And we sent a letter to the Attorney General's office asking what the litigation would cost if this thing became law, right? And we never heard back,
Yeah, they like to ignore us.
except for on Instagram.
Yes, they did acknowledge that we sent it by liking our picture on Instagram. Actually, we didn't send it. I hand delivered it, so I know they got it. But yeah, that's on the Senate reading calendar. It's not prioritized, so all the bills that are priorities are getting put in front of it. So I'm hoping that that just never becomes a priority and it just dies on the calendar, which would be amazing because it's going to waste a ton of taxpayer dollars because it's going to be sued by Planned Parenthood almost immediately after it passes, if it does.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that other states are passing similar bills, and they're already in litigation, and it's just going to be...
Yeah, they already struck down a bill or a similar law in Indiana. So
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how much this thing is going to cost.
come on, Utah Ledge.
I know. Okay, good government. Automatic voter registration, ballot initiatives, GOP stuff. SB 54, what's going on with that?
I would give them a 2.5.
2.5?
Is that high?
I would give them a 1.
Well, I mean, they've been trying to do a lot with voting.
Okay, so that's good. That's true. Good
So,
point.
I mean, there were 4 people who introduced automatic voter registration bills.
Yay!
3 of them were Republicans. And
Good.
so, I
That's-
mean,
That's something.
they also just passed same-day election registration, brought that back. And so there are good things happening with voting. That's why I gave them a little bit higher than a negative 2.
Okay.
Because the ballot initiative stuff, not so hot. I mean, there were bills meant to undermine or completely invalidate every single ballot initiative. And still there's a bill right now, HB 471, that would push back effective dates on ballot initiatives. I was actually just talking about that in another group, and that's being held in Senate Rules Committee right now. We'll see if it comes out. And so, yeah, they've been attacking ballot initiatives. Apparently, they don't trust any of us to make laws, and we actually know that because there were people talking to senators yesterday, and they were saying, we just don't trust the voters. So,
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable.
go legislators.
We've reached max levels of snark.
You're taking it well.
Yeah, and then we have all the election stuff with the GOP.
No, don't. That's not supposed to be.
You
can't edit out
live. Yeah, I mean, that's all a pile of crap as well.
So basically,
Yeah,
what's
we
happening?
have reached a whole new level of snark.
So basically, what's happening? Forgive us, Chase. Basically, what's happening is SB 54 allowed candidates to get on the ballot both through the convention system and through signatures. So they gather signatures, they go on the primary ballot, and then they can get that way. And so there's a small segment of the Utah GOP party that wants to get rid of that, and they've been fighting it for a long time.
We're
They're
looking
in
at you,
litigation.
Representative McKay.
They're in litigation right now over this very thing, and it was determined to be constitutional. SB 54 was determined to be constitutional, so then they're going back and trying to relitigate it in a federal court, right?
Yeah, there's lawsuits happening, but I mean,
Yeah.
all the action's happening here right now.
But the point is that they know that it's constitutional,
Yes.
right? And they're still fighting it, and so they're trying to fight it from different angles. And so then, of course, there was this Central Committee meeting that happened 2 weeks ago, where they basically said, if you are Republican, except for in Congressional District 3, 4, and for the Senate race, you can you will get kicked out of the party immediately if you get on the ballot via signature, right?
Yes, for
Correct.
yeah.
So now what happens is because they passed that bylaw, the state party is in direct conflict with state law. And so
And guess what legislators decided to do about it?
it got punted to Lieutenant Governor Cox, who was supposed to do something about it, and
Well,
he said
technically, he's not supposed to.
Oh, so he said, I can't do anything about it.
Yes.
So then he said the legislature is going to do something about it because
Yes.
the legislature needs to do something about it. And so the thing that the legislature did was,
Pretend that it didn't happen.
so they're literally writing legislation that says this thing, it didn't happen, we're not going to do anything about it, and who cares what they did, you can still, so they're still protecting it, you can still get on the ballot via signature route, but there is literally no accountability for this party that is now flouting state law.
Yep. And that's simply because they're a supermajority, and so they can protect their own. They don't want to have to go through punishing their own party, and I mean, basically, if they punish the party, it would implode. I don't even see how they could be a registered political party, which is different than the qualified. They would pretty much have to be deregistered as a party. And so all their candidates would have to run as unaffiliated candidates or with third parties. And so, I mean, I can understand why they're doing it, but it's still, you guys broke the law. Deal with the consequences, unless you have powerful people in office that can protect you.
So that's really literally what is happening right now. Like, this is not hyperbole. They're protecting their party, and like we understand why. Like that makes sense. Like, but it's still illegal. Like, it's pretty remarkable. So that to me, that and HB 205 are like at the top of my I can't believe this is happening list.
Related to SB 54, though, just about an hour and a half ago.
Oh God. Breaking news, you heard it here first.
So HB 338 or 388, I think it's 338, was a bill that I'm blanking on what it was supposed to do at first. It was related to all this stuff, but they inserted a substitute that would make it so that if Count My Vote does not become law, it immediately repeals SB 54. So
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, and the way it's worded, it doesn't say if it goes on to
the ballot initiative.
Yes, the ballot initiative.
And if it doesn't get voted on November.
If it doesn't become law. That's the thing I'm about to say. So, because it's not just the ballot, it doesn't say, like, if you don't get if they don't get enough signatures, it won't become law.
Right.
And so if for some reason they don't get all the signatures to qualify for the ballot, under this bill, SB 54 would be immediately repealed.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Kate. Yes. I'm literally speechless.
So,
all right. So
yep.
Rage at us about that, but let's continue on.
No, that was Justin Fossen who introduced the substitute. Thank you, Justin Fossen.
Okay, we have to go on because, we're serious people. Healthy environment, public lands, Trump Highway, infrastructure, watershed, extraterritorial jurisdiction. Do you think, side note, that if we do get a Trump Highway, there is a slight chance that we will get a...
No, there's no way. Attention.
What's her name again? Stormy Daniels. So the question is, if we do get a Trump Highway, if there will be a Stormy Daniels on-ramp.
No, we won't. Even though that would be hilarious, and I completely support it if it happens.
That would be a Bodie McBoatface moment for Utah.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely wouldn't happen. I mean, in all honesty, the Senate doesn't take Jim DeBackus seriously on serious bills, and so this is not a serious bill. Yeah. But anyways, I love Jim DeBackus. So this is just me speaking political reality.
With love.
Hi, Jim.
Although that's that's probably one of the few things I actually really support this year is that.
What? The Stormy McDaniels amendment? Yeah, it actually hasn't been.
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy
Not
McDaniels.
That's Bodie McBoatface. Oh my God, I'm so lost. Okay, let's focus. Let's talk about the extraterritorial jurisdiction. What's going on with that?
Okay.
That's
We'll have to give a grade first. To the
give a grade
overall. It could have been up to like a 3 because of the whole new highway bill or transportation funding, whatever stuff. But since they just tore that apart, it went down to like a 1.5 for this whole section, healthy environment.
Wow, that's the lowest one.
Because one, they're continuing their attacks on public lands. They're trying to take Utah out of the Antiquities Act.
That's still going?
Yep. I think it just passed. I think it's going to the governor now. Is that still going?
Oh, no, that's what I was asking,
okay. Yeah. The Trump Highway, it's been circled. I think that's probably not going to go anywhere. Oh, it's just on pause until the sponsor wants to go back to it.
Ha ha ha, that joke's been made a million times. Sorry.
Okay. I think because Representative Duckworth introduced a substitute that would make it the John M. Huntsman Highway. And so it's uncircled. I can't wait. When they actually circled it on the House floor, everybody
and you
was
thought
like,
legislative session was boring.
I said tiring and long.
No, I was
Oh,
I was
Hi.
breaking that wall.
yeah, everybody groaned. It was like, "Aw," when it was circled. So we're all waiting for it to come back. Infrastructure, like I was saying, there was a great bill that would have dedicated a lot more money towards public transit and restructured the UTA. That has been scaled back, and for some reason, we're spending $50 million to rename the UTA to the Transit District Utah.
What?
And then not raising taxes and
TDU?
stuff to actually give money to public transit. So I don't know what the bill's doing now. Then the whole extraterritorial jurisdiction stuff. Luckily, that did not go through. It has been sent to interim
Cool.
for more study.
Okay, so that bill basically would make it difficult. So basically, it would remove the ability for Salt Lake City to monitor its own water resources and
Yeah.
make sure that make sure that it's good water that we're drinking.
Yep.
And that was sponsored by
Mike Noel.
Who does he live in Salt Lake City?
Nope, he lives down in Kanab.
Okay.
But he likes to come up here and tell us what to do, just like the federal government goes down and tells him what to do.
Anyway, so let's move on to our number one pick for favorite pieces of legislation. I'm going to go first. I have to say, my favorite piece of legislation this session was automatic voter registration. I have to say that was sponsored by Deidre Henderson. I think it's an amazing piece of legislation. Anything that we can do to get people out to vote, because every single issue that we have here can be, the legislature and the legislation that we pass is only as good as the legislators that we have, right? So not insulting any of our legislators, but just saying, like, if you have a problem with what you hear today and what you've seen in the legislature, we do have power to change it, and that's through our votes, right? So making sure, we're 38th or 39th in the nation for voter turnout. Millennials don't turn out. Sometimes it's something silly like, like you moved and you forgot to update something or something like that. So to have that automated, and it only makes sense for that to happen. So that's my by far favorite piece of legislation, because it's something that's good and it's something that could pass, Don't look at me with that face like
What?
you think that I'm so starry-eyed over this piece of legislation.
No, I'm excited to tell my favorite piece of legislation.
Oh, you're not even listening to me. Okay,
I was listening.
go on. What's your favorite piece?
I don't know what happened to it. I think it might still be going through, or it died. I don't know, because I wasn't really following it. But I liked it when it was
But it's still
introduced.
his favorite.
It was from Representative Carol Spackman Moss, and it would allow bikers, as they're biking through cities, to yield at stop signs rather than having to stop at stoplights and stop signs for the full length of time. And so if it's safe to go through, you can just ignore that red stoplight, because it is infuriating to go through an empty city on a bike when it's freezing cold and having to wait at a red light.
That was not what I expected. All right, you heard it here first.
Do you have a
Terry, do you have favorite?
No, I don't have a favorite.
You have favorite.
I would
least
say,
favorite.
yeah, my least favorite is probably the ethics bill that I was speaking about. I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah.
And I also am really concerned about HB 298. I think that panel is, this task force should be investigated already, just because I
Get a
already
task
know.
force to investigate the task
Yeah,
force.
it's like you're going to investigate yourselves and you're going to tell us what you did wrong. You already know what you did wrong. Come on. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's good. So now I have a really serious question. What was the best food in the cafeteria?
Tater tots.
Tater tots? Tater tots?
Actually, the tacos they had this year were pretty good too, though.
Oh, I never had the tacos.
Yeah,
Did you have
they
the
were
tacos?
Yeah.
Did you? What was good? I think they have fairly good omelets, honestly.
Yeah, those
And
were good too.
And good bacon, because it was thick bacon. They had what? Good soup choices? Never. It's cold. Oh, sorry. Sometimes I just apologize to the table. Sometimes you just need good comfort food, right? Up here? Yeah. Terry, did you eat here?
No, but I've eaten here once, and I agree about the bacon. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good bacon. Like, that's a
Really
surprise.
good.
I would
Yeah.
expect, fake gross stuff, but it was good. Yeah.
And it's always nice to just stop in here and get a cup of coffee too, because
I praise the barista every time.
caffeine.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. All right. And then, an also very important question. If you had to pick a legislator to narrate the audiobook of your autobiography, who would you pick?
Carol Spackman Moss.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she has a grandma voice, and I love it.
Oh, what about you? Yeah.
I like Patrice Arndt, though, a lot.
Oh, yeah,
so,
Patrice.
yeah.
I actually did not come up with an answer to this question, even though I wrote it. So I'll go with Carol Spackman Moss, too.
Okay.
No. I'm going to go with Karen Kwan because she's my rep.
Okay.
And I like her.
Wait, I want to change it. I just remembered Luz Escamilla.
Oh, yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, there we go.
Not that I don't love Carol. I love Carol, too.
They could do it together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Co-narrate.
I don't know. Senator DeBacchus would have a pretty entertaining
Well,
audiobook
he would
for
do
you.
it with like 3 mimosas. Kyle, do you have anybody? Kyle chooses no one. You don't want any of them to.
Wow.
They're. Oh, Kyle's going with Morgan Freeman. Okay, well that was our off the rails Better Utah broadcast.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the last week of the legislative session. We're barely holding it together. Please send reinforcements in the form of caffeine and snarky jokes. Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks. Bye.